This episode has been brought to you by JustNForm.com. If you're tired of being censored, tired of having your data stolen and sold, go to JustNForm.com, a social media site where all voices are welcome.
Y'all, over the last few years of my life, as I've grown into a more mature adult, I've learned to not let everything piss me off, which is a skill that unfortunately you have to acquire when you're doing politics or involved in politics. Very little surprises me anymore. I'm not gonna lie to you. And even less pisses me off to the point of blind rage or blind outrage to the point of getting me emotional, because I'm unfortunately, like many of you, just used to the bullshit. And plus, when you're trying to find solutions to things, it's very hard to find legitimate solutions when you can't think clearly because you're so pissed off. However, this article that released today about Tulsi Gabbard drove me to the point where I was so enraged when I first read it that I actually couldn't even put out the video. Yeah, it seems early, and I'm probably the first person reporting on this as far as video broadcasting is concerned, but I was going to report on this at about 9 a.m. Changed my mind because I was livid. I was pissed because I'm sick of living in a country where blatant propaganda can be disseminated as if it was news. This isn't, listen, the article I'm about to read to you, this isn't an opinion piece. This is news. NBC News is, they're purporting that this is news. The title of the article: Russia's propaganda machine discovers 2020 Democratic candidate Tulsi Gabbard. So you know where that's about to go. Right? Let's go ahead and read this article. The Russian propaganda machine that tried to influence the 2016 election is now promoting the presidential aspirations of a controversial Hawaii Democrat who earlier this month declared her intentions to run for president in 2020. There was no Russian machine that tried. I mean, once again, if you're going to ask me if Russia as a superpower interfered as much, probably far less than other superpowers, I would probably say, of course, they probably tried to influence the outcome of American elections. American elections influenced the outcome of the entire world. But we don't seem to complain when Saudi Arabia does it. We don't seem to complain when Israel does it. We don't seem to complain when the entire UAE does it. Great Britain and a lot of the West, countries in NATO. I mean, it's kind of like the thing is to influence U.S. elections, but to pretend as if Russia had some unique impact on these elections would be a lie. It would be false. And there's a reason that they haven't come to that conclusion yet. Like, legitimately, there's a reason they haven't been able to connect anybody. There's a reason they haven't been able to actually link directly anybody back to the Kremlin. And it's because it's a false story that was planted to trick you all, because in 2012, Barack Obama allowed for propaganda to be used on American citizens outside of wartime. Look it up. These are facts. So in case you were curious about where I stood on the Russiagate situation, it's an excuse. It was a convenient excuse for Hillary Clinton to deflect the fact that she was a horrible candidate and she faced the repercussions of what she did to Bernie Sanders and his supporters. These are the facts. Let's continue in this article. An NBC News analyst of the main English news sites employed by Russia in its 2016 election meddling shows that, by the way, this NBC News analysis, what? Based off of what? If your whole thing is, based off of the great work we did in 2016 by finding almost absolutely nothing, we can already tell what direction this article is about to head into. It shows that Tulsi Gabbard of Hawaii, who is set to make her formal announcement Saturday. This is, by the way, today. They released the article this morning. They're trying to portray as if they didn't do it. They released it this morning strategically. It has become the favorite of the sites Moscow used when it interfered in 2016. Moscow didn't interfere with 2016, and I'm going to show you, I want to put you all on game as far as all the candidates that Moscow helped. Several experts who track websites and social media linked to the Kremlin have also seen what they believe might be the first stirrings of an upcoming Russian campaign for support for Tulsi Gabbard. We're going to get through this together, y'all. We're going to get through this together. Since Gabbard announced her intention to run in January 11th, there have been at least 20 stories on 3 major Moscow-based English language websites affiliated with or are supportive of the Russian government. Wow. Oh my God. Y'all. RT, which is Russia Today. If many of you watch Lee Camp, Jimmy Dore goes on RT often. Technically, I've been on RT as well. Jesse Ventura is on RT. Abby Martin had a show on RT. I think she still frequently appears on RT. It's on American Satellite. Like, you can just order it right now if you wanted to. Seriously. Lee Camp, by the way, about as far left as you can get. They have another show called Crosstalk with Peter Lavelle. Peter Lavelle is a conservative. None of their rhetoric ever says anything, quote unquote, positive about Russia. It's very critical of both parties, by the way, as well as almost everybody else on RT. Most of RT, Ed Schultz, the Honorable Ed Schultz, who passed away, who revealed to us the information that MSNBC stopped him from announcing Bernie Sanders' recording and producing the announcement of Bernie Sanders' campaign the first time. So Ed Schultz ended up at RT. Loved it. Said he had more creative freedom there than ever in his career working for mainstream. So that's the RT they're referring to. Sputnik News. Shout out to Garland Nixon and Lee Stranahan. I've been on Sputnik, actually, by the way. I've been on their show Fault Lines. That's a great show, by the way. Check it out. So Sputnik News Radio and the Russian Insider. They say that all these are backed by the Kremlin. I got some bad news for y'all and the people who wrote this article. Garland, who's on Sputnik Radio, Garland's black, y'all. And I go on the channel a lot, and I'm black too. And I don't speak Russian, nor do I know a black person who does. So let's continue. The CIA has called RT and Sputnik part of the Russia state propaganda machine. And I challenge you all to verify that. I really do. Because all Lee has talked about today was anti-interventionists. He just recently posted a video, I believe. That's pretty much all everybody talks about is, can we stop having war? Can we have free and fair elections? That's basically what we discuss every time I've been on any of the channels. I mean, literally, I've been on 3 shows out of both of those, like between Sputnik and RT, I've been on 3 shows. All we've talked about is anti-interventionism and fair elections. Interesting. Seems like they may be enemies of fair elections and anti-interventionism, considering that Tulsi Gabbard is a champion of fair elections and anti-interventionism. I wonder if there's a coincidence there. Let's continue. All 3 sites celebrated Gabbard's announcement. Are you kidding me? That is their logic. All 3 sites celebrated Gabbard's announcement. In other words, so if they celebrated Gabbard's announcement when she's anti-interventionism and pro-election justice, because all the other websites who supported and celebrated to the umpteenth degree Kamala Harris and Cory Booker, specifically Kamala Harris, you must be for the prison-industrial complex, which you are. You must be for the military-industrial complex, which you are. This is a reactionist article based off of absolutely nothing and the logic that, well, we know why we're told to support our candidates. Therefore, if anybody else reports on Tulsi Gabbard, they must be Russian spies and she must be the one that the Kremlin decided to back. Really? I know Lee Camp personally and Jimmy and HA he's been on. And I know Abby, like none of them are Russian. You're hearing it from the horse's mouth right now. I know people on all of those websites. None of them have a bias for Russia. Actually, to be honest with you, most of them don't even care about Russia. Just be honest with you, they just don't care enough. What they do care about, however, is getting back America's democracy and giving it back to the people. Same thing that Tulsi Gabbard cares about. What a surprise. Once again, I'm sure these are coincidences. The coverage devoted to Gabbard, both in news and commentary, exceeds that afforded to any of the declared rumored Democratic candidates. Despite Gabbard's lack of voter recognition, this article is a disgusting hit piece. Wasn't even put together well. Wasn't even well researched. To pretend as if Gabbard has no support in the electorate is a lie. First of all, more people, like in reality, before Kamala Harris announced and literally was shoved down our throats, more of the active voting base on both the right, the left, and the center knew who Tulsi Gabbard was. Her growth was organic, and a lot of it was due to what she did with Bernie Sanders' campaign. Funny enough, what they don't like to talk about is that Tulsi was the chosen one. This is retribution for the establishment for her deciding to walk away from that. Yeah, because she spoke in 2012 at the Democratic National Convention. Did she tell y'all that? And she also spoke in 2016 at this national convention. But the difference was in 2012, she was speaking on behalf of the establishment when she decided to do what her moral compass told her to do, which was to support Bernie Sanders and change almost everything about who she was. And it almost cost her her congressional seat to do it. All of a sudden, they hate Tulsi Gabbard. She's a Russian ally now. Interesting. Gabbard was mentioned in the three sites about twice as often as the two best known Democratic possibilities, Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders, each with 10 stories. Well, Kamala Harris, because nobody cares about her. They know the real numbers and everybody knows that Kamala Harris doesn't actually have a chance. Elizabeth Warren had fewer. What are they going to talk about? What is there to boast about? All you've talked about with Kamala Harris and Cory Booker are race. RT isn't going to, oh my God, we're just so happy about black people. Oh my God, black people. Kamala Harris is so good for black people. Like, they're not going to lie. And trust me, if you don't want RT and the people and the producers from RT to cover Elizabeth Warren and Kamala Harris, because it's not going to be pretty for them. So let's be very clear. They actually have something to celebrate as far as Tulsi Gabbard is concerned. Whereas, what do the other two have to offer? In each case, the other contenders were treated more critically than Gabbard, with headlines like, "Don't run, Vermont paper begs Bernie Sanders not to seek a U.S. presidency in 2020. And quote-unquote sexist much, Biden blames conservative blonde women for shutdown, forgets Ann Coulter's names. Her promulgation of positions compatible with Russian geostrategic interests can help them mainstream such discussion in the Democratic Party," said Alex Stamos, former chief security officer for Facebook. What a surprise. And now he's an NBC news analyst. And mind you, in case you've never seen my video regarding how many people were working for the CIA and then ended up hired by both Facebook and the New York Times, it's disgusting. It's clear that they are using weaponized propaganda to try and take down progressives. I don't know how much clearer this could be because they've never made these allegations about Cory Booker. Come on. Matter of fact, no establishment candidate ever gets these allegations. Isn't it crazy how Russia only sold Hillary Clinton and her Hillary Clinton helped direct the approval of Uranium One. John Podesta, Obama's former chief of staff, who was going to be Hillary Clinton's chief of staff and was also her campaign chair, he had owned 50,000 shares in Juul, the largest Kremlin-backed energy company in Russia, and was there during its ridiculously quick stock increase that was partially due to Uranium One, who was approved by the woman he works for. Isn't it crazy that apparently Russia was working for literally everybody else except for the one that they actually legitimately benefited from? That is so interesting and wildly convenient. I can't believe it. But hey, I'm sure that there is probably some legitimate... Oh, Lee. Hey, shout out to Lee Stranahan. Lee, you made the article, man. I'm sure you're watching this right now. Funny enough, Garland is in Hawaii right now. I'm sure that they have perfectly reputable sources to justify the nonsensical allegations that they're pushing in this article. Perfectly. Josh Russell. Oh, okay. Josh Russell, a researcher and quote unquote troll hunter known for identifying fake accounts, similarly told NBC News that he recently spotted a few clusters of suspicious accounts that retweeted this exact same tweet about Tulsi Gabbard, mostly neutral or slightly positive. Oh my God. You're telling me that if you tweet neutral or slightly positive headlines about Tulsi Gabbard, then you must be Russian? Do you understand this? Do you hear how? This is just appalling. I can't even put this into words. The rage that I feel reading this back out loud. Let me explain to you why this is so tragic. Josh Russell. Let's look up who Josh Russell is. You want to know what the title of the article is? This indie dad is exposing Russian disinformation, one social media account at the time. This is how the article goes. At about 8 p.m. on most evenings, when the day is winding down, his 2 young sons are asleep and his wife is heading to bed. Josh Russell's mind is on Russia. With Russian trolls lurking undetected on the internet, the 39-year-old Indianapolis resident who literally has no idea how or what he's doing. But he spends several hours immersing himself with the task of weeding out those Russian trolls. His research has been used on CNN and BuzzFeed. You know, the same 2 organizations who constantly have to retract articles about Russiagate. Interestingly enough. BuzzFeed, by the way, literally just lied to such a degree that even Robert Mueller had to say, we didn't say any of that stuff. We don't know where they got that from. So here's what's even best. Here's what's even better. He isn't paid. He's just concerned. The trolls Russell targets aren't ones who pop up in Twitter mentions, Facebook feeds, and comment sections on news websites. Those trolls who spark online discord through inflammatory or off-topic messages are difficult to distinguish from far-right and far-left American social media accounts, Russell said. I get a lot of requests on Twitter to look at people that have annoyed somebody. That's just not what type of work I do. Man, you're so professional. There's a misunderstanding there. Tell us what you do, Russell. Russell hunts the trolls who post and spread disinformation on Twitter, Facebook, and the like. A manipulation of social media that on Wednesday brought the company executives before Congress to detail the steps that they're taking to address this influence. The accounts Russell finds tend to fly under the radar. A Twitter account that has already been exposed might have followed or been followed by other Russian accounts. What? It might have followed or been followed by people who live in Russia, one of the largest countries in the world, who also has social media. Oh my God. Well, Russell, you're a freaking patriot, bro. It might have even retweeted or promoted. Oh my God. Some clues are obvious, by the way, because he uses clues to determine if it's a fake Russian account. But you know what this article, first of all, did you hear this? I'm not even joking. This is a very serious article written by a dad who stalks the internet at night looking for trolled bot accounts because he's unsatisfied with his life. That's the expert they quoted in the NBC article. That's it. That's the guy. What they didn't mention is that there was just a bunch of corporations that were caught creating Russian trolls, which his research can't account for. And they were all Americans creating Russian trolls. So it looked like Russia was trying to influence the election. I don't know if he knows about that. These are facts. He doesn't know about the fact that, well, David Brock, Media Matters, David Brock, look up Media Matters if you don't know who they are. David Brock literally created this plan where he blames Russia for creating bots. But what has actually taken place, in case, I'm sure you've all been on Twitter, and the ones who are avidly blue no matter what, I mean, they call you sexist, Russian bots, they call you Trump tars. Have you noticed something? You ever notice how they all got like little animal faces? A lot of them have accounts created as early as 2017, 2016, especially on Facebook. They stopped trolling so much on Facebook, but on Twitter and YouTube too. There are bots that will say, yeah, my favorite sports team is from, like they have like this weirdly off name. And they're like, I was born and raised in St. Louis. My favorite sports team is the Rams, but they can't form a correct sentence to save their lives. Like the syntax is off enough that you know you're trying to process this into English from another language. Yeah. You never seen an article about that. Well, there are a couple of articles written by reputable sources, unlike NBC, but you don't see that blasted all over the internet because David Brock also applies. He does this on the right. Once again, he hires people to make sure that it looks like Trump's people are as a whole divisive. And then they can say also, and then what they also do is they say, well, they're Bernie people too. Matter of fact, Russia wants Bernie and Trump to win. That's why Hillary didn't win. Seriously. It's Machiavellian. If you've ever read The Prince, what they do is they blame, while you have control of the media, while you have control of the propaganda, they blame their enemy or their adversary on what they are guilty of. That's what they do. Do you understand? This is the clearest example. If you ever thought that Tulsi was not on your side, as irritating as this might be, seriously, as irritating as this might be, this is the biggest promotional piece that they could have done for Tulsi Gabbard. And that's how I have chosen to look at it, because it's worked. It has. It's when people know already the United States is full of shit. Russia didn't really do anything. That when the progressives who may have been on the fence about how they feel about Tulsi, they're going to read this article and they're going to say, well, damn, MSNBC is lying on Tulsi. Well, maybe she is on my side. Literally, if you Google Tulsi, look, every single article on Google at the headline is a negative. Or you're trying to tell me they can't find anything nice to say about Tulsi Gabbard. You don't want to talk about her election justice laws that almost every candidate who's announced completely ignored. You don't want to talk about the fact that she's an anti-interventionist and that she's all about peace, which is why she went to go visit Syria. And she came and told the truth about Assad. And she came and told the truth about the fact that Americans were funding terrorists. People forget that she literally dropped that nugget and they freaked out because nobody was supposed to know that we were funding Al-Qaeda. But we are. She introduced subsequently a Stop Arming Terrorists Act, Stop Funding Terrorists Act. Both. Guess who voted on it? Guess who? None of the announced candidates even talked about stopping the arming of terrorists. You can't find anything good to talk about. But you manage to not find any, because if you go to Google Kamala Harris' name at the top, look at all the articles. Positive. And we all know Google got caught last election manipulating results to favor Hillary Clinton. Think about it, people. This is common. This is if you were on the fence, here is your answer. Whenever they say, oh, that's Russia's candidate. They did the same thing to Bernie Sanders. They did the same thing to Jill Stein. People only really... No, let me tell you how many people they've done it to. You know who else they've done it to? They did the same thing to FDR, if you all don't recall. They tried to call him the communist. His vice president, Wallace. Yeah, Wallace was a card-carrying socialist, literally. Most popular, actually the second most popular politician in the country, and was going to be president, but that's a different discussion for a different day because the establishment did not want him because he was like the first Bernie Sanders who got screwed over massively at the Democratic National Convention, at a contested convention where he was supposed to be vice president because everybody knew FDR was going to die, but they did not want him in charge because he was talking about desegregation, because he was talking about ending imperialism, because he was talking about ending colonialism, and he was a Russian agent also. You know who else they called a Russian agent? Angela Davis, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Nelson Mandela, Fidel Castro, Maurice Bishop, Huey P. Newton, the Black Panthers, literally anybody who refused to indulge or entertain the idea of racism or the military-industrial complex. Yeah. At this point, not an exaggeration, you can't be on the right side of history if you have not been accused of being a communist, a Russia bot, etc., etc., etc. It is propaganda inspired by the idea that we should be scared of Russia when our own country legalized propaganda to use on us. So who should we really be afraid of? You tell me. This is, if anything, the biggest compliment Tulsi Gabbard has ran all year. The establishment has made it clear to the entire world. She is not our candidate. Therefore, by default, most times, it probably means she's on our side. Thanks for watching that segment of Mi Casa es Su Casa. You can donate to our Patreon and keep helping the network grow by clicking on the link in the description below. And also, make sure you join us at JustNForm.com. And finally, make sure you subscribe to us on Roku and be part of the very first independent news network on Roku TV. But more than anything else, always remember, find your balance. Peace.